Hello and welcome to BonkTable. This is another Conquest battle report. And today with me is my wonderful opponent, the one, the only, Skillen.
Hey, I got to hear you do the Conquest battle report.
I don't. Do you want to do it? Here, you do it.
Sure. Welcome to another Conquest battle report.
I think people come for that sometimes.
It's pretty good. I don't know. It gets stuck in my head. It'll just like, when I'm dissociating, I'll just like that will intrusively appear in my brain, and I'm just like, I don't know why I'm thinking about that.
I'm good. I know the effect I have on people. Oh my gosh. Alright, so Skillen is here with me today because him and I played like a really good game of Conquest. And I wanted to bring him on because I wanted to hear his side of the game because it was that good. It was also a really brutal game because we were really close in skill and scenario and what we had to do for making decisions to play the game. And it is Dweghom versus Spires. So we're going to get into the lists, scenario, table, and then the game itself. And I have Skillen here to provide his point of view and feedback and what he thinks of the game so that you as the viewer can understand both sides of it. And it's not just me talking. You ready, Skillen?
Yep.
Okay, so here's my list. Once again, playing Rollo Castle. And after this game, probably going to make some changes because there's a couple things that I've found the faults with the list finally and really locked in with what the faults are. If you've watched this before, you'll know this list pretty well. For anyone who's new, it's a Steel Shaper Warlord so that he's using his tokens to heal that he generates from casting spells. He's got a 5-stand of Hold Ballista with Herald of Magma. The Temper Steel Shaper is going to be sitting in that unit. He has Memory Breath, so it's Aura of Death +3 per stand in contact. What's pretty good to take to deal with chaff regiments. Then he's got 1 Fireforge and then 2 Steelforge. And Steelforge are really good brute regiments, so they can take a hit and deal a hit back. And it's really tough for a lot of people just to hear, take 13 Cleave 1s. But because of their Flux Power, they're going to Clash 5. You Inspire, you're rerolling 6s. You're basically getting 13 Cleave 1s. And then Defense 4, Resolve 4, and 5 Wounds is a really solid stat line to take hits and be a wall. Next, we have the same Warband twice, but is a Tempered Sorcerer in the School of Fire, with another unit of Fireforge riding the Hellbringer Drake. And then I have it duplicated. These guys are just running up, shooting cannons from their drakes, shooting shots with their fireballs. As Skillen knows, obviously not doing anything fireball related. Because,
I feel like part of it.
Go ahead.
I feel like partially this is just like the anti-magic aura I have going on, like because I think I don't know. I've played against the double Drake on the or double sorcerer on the Drake kind of build quite a few times, and it's like there are really specific like distances you want to stand away from them to prevent them from being able to like fireball you, and I don't know, I just practice that quite a bit, and then it's like, oh, like the 1 or 2 times you have a good chance to try to fireball me, it's like those are the rolls that you failed, and I was just like, ooh, feel lucky right now.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I was not having a great time. So yeah, and that's really the list. I'm not gonna go super deep into it, but it makes what's called a castle where you kind of bulk up defensively with your Steelforge, Fireforge, Hold Ballista, and you kind of keep like both Drakes and probably usually a unit of Fireforge safe so that they can just kind of shoot and get a lot of work done. That's really it.
Yeah. The interesting variation, I guess, in this list compared to most other Dweg lists, or like the other Dweg lists that I played, are the Steelforged, which I do not see that often. And those little aid carriers they're pretty nasty. Like, they hit way harder than I was hoping. And I just didn't really plan my follow-up to deal with them particularly well. And also the extra unit of Fireforged. 2 Fireforged, pretty good. 3 Fireforged, kind of surprised me.
Yeah, there's...
So.
the Steelforge follow a similar, like, I believe when we had this game, I told you, you're like, oh, Steelforge, I've never seen those before. I'm like, just think about them as Ashen Dawn without Bless, and that's literally what they're doing. Like, they're fulfilling the same role as Ashen Dawn, except they don't have Blessed.
Yeah, they go down substantially easier in my experience. Like, I was killing them with Avatara, which that is not going to happen with Ashen Dawn, even if you aren't using the Blessed normally.
Yeah. But still, like, they kind of fulfill that similar role as an Ashen Dawn will, where they're a brute or a brawler.
Yeah.
Like, they're just...
Yeah.
They want to get into a fight, they want to be in combat, they want to fight it out. And so it's Dwegh's version of that, and I really like them too, and having 2 MSUs is really solid to keep everything else together, because you do need a melee punch in a shooting list like this.
Yeah.
And they do a perfect job at it, because it's just like...
Yeah, they're good.
Take 13
they're
clean
fast.
ones. Like, have fun.
Well, not just that, but it's like they're faster than the rest of your army, and I mean, other than the Drakes, but they're like relatively fast, and they have impacts, and they have cleave. Like, that's really nice. So even if you're doing a march charge, you're usually still getting something out of it, and then enough of them live, and they're so accurate that when they do swing back at you with was it flux powered, you're just taking essentially all of the attacks that they do. Like, most of the time you're taking almost all of those attacks just as Cleave 1 hits, and it's like, oh no,
bad times ahead. Yeah, I really like them. I think after this, I think during the post game we'll talk about some changes to this list, because I am going to make some changes in this list, because I'm finding the list to be a little restrictive in a couple areas, and there's things that need to be smoothed out, and it's one of the big ones, especially in the Spires versus Dwegh matchup, is the token generation. Tempered Sorcerer with Fire School doesn't have very good fire or token generation compared to like Magma, especially into Spires who know what they're doing, and you need the tokens to live. So, want to go to your, or you want to talk about that, and then we'll go to your list?
Yeah, I just have like a couple quick thoughts about that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think definitely with like Tempered, you're getting 1, and then it's like with the 2 sorcerers being in Fired, it's kind of a crapshoot. If the other player knows what they're doing and knows like the range bands to stand out of, like if you stand 21 inches away from a Drake, you're not getting fireballed that turn. And then if they're within 21 inches, you want to be as close as you can be. Like, you want to be just outside, like essentially 17 inches, so that you're not able to just stand there and get like aim fired by the Drake. But if the Drake does aim fire at you, which that's where a lot of the damage is probably coming from, then you're still not getting fireballed. So that means, like, unless you're standing within 14 inches of that Drake, it's not getting both aim fire and fireball off, and that's what you want to prevent, essentially. So if your opponent essentially just stays 14 inches outside, and you really want to get those shots off from the Drake, it means that now you're probably down to only like 1 token, or like potentially 2 tokens around if you get another opportune target with one of the sorcerers. And then without like the Ardents in there, then there's like the Ardents, I think, do a ton of work just generating tokens.
Yeah. Like just the auto casting. So there's an idea in my head to like play. This variant of Rilocast is probably done after this battle report. I've had a great time with it, don't get me wrong, but I need to play some other stuff, and I kind of want to play Tempered Steel Shaper with Ardent, just to run various more melee guys, but keeping the eggs. I really like the eggs.
The eggs are good. I like them.
Yeah.
They're kind of a menace. They're, like I said, they're fast, and they're kind of like they're almost like a slightly slower but like more offensive version of Avatara, is kind of the way that I look at them. Because their defensive stats are like 4 evasion 1, but like so -1 evasion plus 1 wound, like that's a reasonable trade-off. And then being able to get up to like 5 on the clash, that's like really strong.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to your list.
Cool.
Okay, Skillen. My first question about your list is why did you call it Post-Cataclysm Reconstruction?
Because it's actually just the same list as the one that I've been running since the update that made Vanguard clones stop being able to score and also prevented you from taking both the armor piercing shots and the biotic hive. So that was the great cataclysm of Spires, where Vanguard clone infiltrators were never again seen on the table. Realistically, it's just the fact that they can't score hurts them quite a bit. So this is like the adjustment to that list, to the list I was running, to try to compensate for the fact that there are no longer Vanguard clones to score on turn 2.
Okay. So let's go down through the first warband, Lineage Highborn, and why it's the Warlord and what you got running with it, and we'll start there.
Okay, so the Lineage Highborn is the Warlord specifically because this is a Sovereign Lineage list. Sovereign Lineage lets you pick 3 mutations for free on... I think you can put it on another character, but you just put it on the Lineage Highborn. Realistically, this is just to buff up the Incarnate Sentinels. The character itself, you don't really care about, other than the fact that it just is like a force multiplier for your Incarnates. The weak part of the profile for Incarnates is the Resolve. So like Resolve 3, real bad. So to shore that up, you want Command Pheromones, which gives the character +1 to its Resolve characteristic, which makes it Resolve 5. Unless that unit is broken, which is pretty hard to do, and it stays broken, which is hard to keep it broken, it means that you just have Resolve 5 and basically just don't take Resolve damage for the most part. The next thing is Pheromantic Override, which allows you to do once per game an out of activation March or Clash off of as a draw event for the character, for a unit within 8 inches of the character. So it doesn't have to be the Incarnate Sentinels, but it's usually the Incarnate Sentinels. There are 2 ways that you really use this. I guess 3 ways technically, but like if you're using it in the last way, it usually means something went wrong or things are just like really weird. The first way is you on the turn that the Incarnates deploy, you put the Lineage Highborn underneath them, and then you just activate again to get another march, and it just rockets you up the board, usually 21 inches onto something to contest a point or score it. That's really good because there's not... Turn 2 and turn 3 are usually a little... Well, turn 2 is rough for scoring because otherwise you have like Avatar that are coming onto the board and they can run up like 14 inches. They don't have Fluid Reform, and a banner is 20 points, which is just... I don't know, like
too much.
So expensive. It's too expensive with the other things you're buying. So that lets you rocket up 21 inches. The other way you can do it is you run up 14 inches, get within like March charge clash range of an important unit if the opponent's playing KG, and then you at the end of your turn 4 March charge clash them, and then just kind of like laugh as your opponent like complains about how broken Incarnate Sentinels are. The last way you can use that is if for some reason your opponent manages to like get into contact with you, like charge you first or something early on, and it's a fight that you need to win, you can do Inspire Clash, and then you put the character underneath, and then you can clash again.
Could you character clash and then have the Avatar and then entourage into the Incarnates and then Inspire Clash off that? Like what if it's 2 big Incarnate blocks fighting each other?
Oh, 2 big. You can draw off of it.
Character draw event into Pheromantic Overdrive to clash with the regiment. And then because of the entourage rule, you just draw your next card with incarnates because you set your deck up like that, and then you just inspire clash with the incarnates. Would you then do like a 5 block of Ashen Dawn? Like, I feel like that's where you do it.
Yeah. So it depends on what you're fighting. If it's something like Ashen Dawn or something, and you just want to like maximize the damage output like as fast as possible, that's a good way of doing it. If it's something that like you think you might kill it, but if you don't kill it, you're in trouble. It's good to put the character underneath, just because it's like a lot of the time if you do that, then you can like do the Inspire Clash, and if for instance you need to do emergency maneuvers afterwards to like pin something back or like, you know, continue the onslaught like moving forward or whatever, now you can use it as a movement. But yeah, I think if you're against another heavy unit and you just need to maximize damage output, that's the right way to do it.
Okay, so yeah, but it just gives you more options.
It's flexibility.
Yeah. The Spires way, being flexible.
Yeah, that's very much like the name of the game with the faction. It doesn't do anything particularly well. It's just, it lets you focus like what you do have in like different ways. Like, was it Carl call it like rags to riches or something, or like make your rags into riches or something?
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's kind of it. The other thing is Cascading Degeneration, which gives the brick of like, it's 6 models total, so 5 incarnates, and then the character gives it Aura of Death 4, and that's another way of ensuring that if you like run into something and beat it mostly to death, that you don't just get stuck there. But it requires that like so with Aura of Death, you want to either activate your unit as late as possible or early, but it depends. So like if you need to like maul the unit so that they don't hurt you, you need to go first. If you can, and then what happens is the next turn you want them to activate after that unit if you can afford it, and then that way hopefully the Aura of Death kills them and you don't have to waste another activation. You can send your incarnates off to maul something else.
Yeah, or if you have card advantage and you're just like waiting for your opponent to draw that card so that regiment can just die. Totally. And then you're freed up.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the 2 units of Avatara.
Yeah, they are superior creations, which bumps them up to base 3 Clash. That's the ideal way to play Avatara. They're a flanking unit. They protect your side. You put them on your weak flank usually.
The hold a zone.
That's that
we'll score a zone. Like, they're good.
Yeah, they're super good. I call them they go cockroach mode, right? Where they just refuse to die. And like that evasion 2 just keeps them alive way longer than they really should ever live.
Yeah, they have no right to be evasion 2.
It's awesome. That's what makes them, like, I think worth it. Otherwise they're not that good.
Well, yeah, because if something like High Cleave comes in or Smite, it'll just like rip through your defense, but you're like, oh, stops that evasion 2.
Yeah, you just go cockroach mode, activate.
And then your new regiment, the change up in this game.
Oh yes, the Leonine Avatara. The way that I see them is that they are 10 points more expensive than Vanguard Clone Infiltrators. They are mediums, so that they score speed 7, which is an upgrade. Their defense is 3, which is, I think, the same. Evasion 2 is also nice.
Yeah, it's
the 4 wounds caught me.
Right there.
Yeah, exactly. They can theoretically cockroach mode as well, but just not under like weight of fire, it turns out. The important parts are not really their clash or their impacts, it's their shooting. So they're range 14, AP2 deadly shot, which is equivalent to AP3, and they have fluid formation and barrage 3. Yeah, it's fantastic. The downside is if your opponent's hiding in the bush, because you're going for quality of shots rather than sheer volume, hiding in the trees kind of hurts, because every shot you lose is like usually like a lost wound, or it's like highly likely to be a lost wound.
You want to know something? This is the Merc crossbow life you're living right now, by the way.
Just hide in the woods.
No,
watch Merc crossbows cry.
Yeah, that's it. You're a better Merc. Like, you have the offensive capability of Merc crossbow for barrage, but like your higher volley is quality. When you do hit, you're killing stuff with every shot. Like, but your barrage stat, like trees are your friends against Leona Avatara. That is what I have learned.
Oh yeah.
I have played them twice now, and off of that first game, I learned that trees are your friend when you see these guys hit the table.
Oh, the other thing to note about them, which this didn't really sink in until I was playing last night, because again, I haven't played with them until last night, is they are volley 3 base, which means it's viable to like run them around, because I think their mobility is really what makes them good. So you can run around and still just be like shooting things to pieces. It's awesome.
Yeah, and also fluid formation, just to like go places or to keep yourself out of places or just to
shoot things from your butt, man. It's great.
The butt shots.
Yeah. So
these guys are a huge game. I think running 2 MSUs is going to be a huge change for Spires. Like, it just gives them so much power.
Yeah, I have the second unit as well. I just it's like I got them Tuesday, and then I like built them and the Prideborn like the next day, and then like base coated them. So like on Wednesday I built and base coated them, and then Thursday pretty much it was like finished work and immediately went to the game store, and it was like I didn't have enough time to like move stuff around like in my physical like army transport bag, or like in my like model bag, in order to like build the directorate or like build the alternate list that I've been thinking about.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
next warband, High Clone with his Vanguard and Marksman's.
Yep. It's relatively straightforward. The characters are always what makes things like complicated.
Guns block.
The High Clone can shoot. Same profile as the Marksman clones, and he's
better at it.
Oh yeah, he has deadly shots. Yeah, he's better at it and has deadly shots. If the unit lives, he might be like, if something gets into contact with the Marksman clones and they live, which is like a big if, then he might be able to like kill some stuff off of it eventually. Like, for instance, if Merc crossbows run up into him, he can kind of kill them off. It's real bad though if that's happening. Don't bank on that. Colin got something into my Marksman clones, failed to kill them, and then the High Clone managed to clean him up. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
but
he lifts. Like, he's cleave 1 with flawless strikes in class 3 and 5. Like, he'll put work in.
Yeah. You don't want to be in that situation, but if you get in that situation, he can potentially unjam you. Vanguard clones, importantly, are superior creations. The nice thing about them is they're speed 6. They have Vanguard, so 18 inches onto the board, and they get 6 attacks apiece.
Yeah, it's a lot of attacks.
Yep. Even if just one of those lives, that's like
7 attacks off the command stand.
That's almost 2. Yeah, that's almost 2 stands of like normal infantry hitting on 4s. Most of the time, like, yeah, they're pretty nasty, and I think every time I've gotten somebody with them, they're always like, "Oh, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what? Look at this bucket of dice from like these few dudes."
What's their problem though?
They die.
Yeah.
They just explode if you look at them. And also, they're very tempting to run in front of your other important units, and then you're like, oh, I can run up 18 inches onto the board, and by the time they come on, a lot of the times, if you haven't properly shaped like the line of engagement, you're just gonna run in the way of something and then hurt yourself. Yeah. I should probably deploy them earlier, honestly.
You kind of hold them to like turn 3 or 4, I've noticed a lot of the time.
Yeah, I could do turn 2. Usually I'm like using the Avatar to set up the weak flank. Maybe I should just run the Vanguards onto like a point or something.
I think you want to do it on turn 2 if you are... if someone's getting really aggressive on scoring and you don't want to be scored out or locked out of scenario, that's when you need them on turn 2. But if you can hold off, you can use them to fill a weak spot in the line or score something that you have control over later in the game.
The problem is that I have to make that decision at the top of turn 2.
Yeah, that's why you for sure do it on Ginks Nords. They want to score.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's like it's a little bit of like faction specific. Like you want to do it into Nords.
Yeah.
You might do it in Old
Fastweg.
Dominion.
Fastweg, these guys just run into a zone that's uncontested. It's awesome.
Yeah, Fastweg is like they just like do their line of cocaine and they just hit the table and keep going because they're like guns. Who cares about that? Let's just go.
Yeah, whenever I see that, like with Vanguard clones, I'm just like deploy them once I know where the pieces are, and then I'm just like, sweet, Vanguard clones just like do the what is it, the end zone run, just fucking go for it. I'm like, yeah, I have my own like meth fueled goblins.
The touchdown.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Ferromancer Warband. You got a couple things in here.
Ferromancer has avatar projection and lives in the brute drones.
That's his safety bunker because he needs to stay safe.
Yeah. Basically, the Ferromancer. Recently, I've really been liking what is it? Induced Vigor, which gives you reroll 6s on your resolve rolls, and also Tenacious, the one that lets you like get rid of a defense roll or auto passive defense roll. Yeah, that is real strong, especially when you're jockeying for position in like the early turns, and then you need to figure out how to not take chip damage. Preventing chip damage, or like preemptively using Induced Vigor to basically take a strong unit and put it at the bottom of your deck and give it a buff, is like real nice. I really like that, especially on a turn where it's like, oh, I'm gonna get shot by a bunch of random crap, and you're like, cool, how do I just not take that? Because I find that healing after the fact is always like a little bit of catch up. Like if you have something like regeneration, it's real nice, but if you have to if you're going to like essentially if you're healing and you haven't already won the fight, a lot of the times that just backfires, and it makes you kind of easier to break because you're healing stands that have already been taking damage. It means that they could probably take more damage, and it doesn't reset the number. So it's just the number of stands that if the number of stands, if half of however many stands that unit had at the beginning of the turn dies, so say you have like, I don't know, like 6 stands, and then you lose 2, and then theoretically you heal back another one, and then it dies again, or like you heal 2 back somehow, and then another one dies, it still breaks your unit, and now you have this big unit that's broken. That's real bad. That's real bad. So not much of a fan of healing unless I've kind of already won the battle and am like kind of like just getting ready to slingshot, you know, or like basically like patching up a unit or clearing off chip damage and then like trying to slingshot them in.
Yeah, that's fair. He's living the brutes are just being his bunker and they can do work.
Yep.
Onslaughts, you like to like burn out these guys. You're like either score or you burn out.
Yeah, well, they're not doing anything else otherwise. Like,
that's true.
Okay, their base stats suck, right? Like, look at their defensive stats. That's 2. Defense 2, evasion 0. Okay, so cleave 2, they just die. So like, hold on,
AP2, they just die.
Or yes, exactly. Anything, exactly. You're just like, sweet. Guess I just okay. Well, I'm getting hit. No, I'll just remove them from the table. Yeah, they can't take a hit, but they can hit kind of hard. It's a little swingy though, because the good part about them is that they have 5 attacks base and a leader, so that's 16 attacks for an MSU. And they're Clash 2, but if you burn out, it gives them +1 to their Clash, and also if they're inspired, it gets them up to 4. So now you're at 4, that's pretty good, right? So 16 attacks on Clash 4. I like lots of attacks at like Clash 4. That's where I like to be. The other thing is that they're normally March 5, and burnout gives them +2 to their movement. So something that was only moving 10 inches can now run 12 inches. So if you need to like make a break for like a point or whatever, it's worth it to just burn them out to get them there, or it's worth it to like ensure that they get a charge or like greatly increase their charge range. And I don't know, just they're kind of like crap until like you burn them out, and then they become like real good. And then they just hopefully you don't have to pay for your crimes against nature. But sometimes you like do real bad on that roll, and then like 2 stands are gone, and you're like, oh no.
And then finally we got the Strix, the most obnoxious regiment in the game.
Yep, speed 10, speed 10 flying, and lethal demise. That's pretty much all that matters. Yep. Notably, though, their resolve is lower than their evasion, so you're more likely to pass your evasion roll just like by 1/6. More likely to pass your evasion roll than your resolve roll. So whenever people are gonna like damage them, I'm just like, please, dear God, kill them all with the attacks. And that way, at least I might do damage back to you.
There are times where I won't inspire into them just to try and make you roll resolve to kill off the rest of them, so I take less lethal demise.
That's the correct move. It can lead to the Strix living though, which if I can get an extra turn of delaying you out of them, then that is perfect. Then they're like getting way more than their points. They lived a couple turns in this game.
Yeah, the answer is to shoot them in the face.
Oh yeah, shooting just deletes them. But they are size 1, so you can hide them behind stuff. You can't get shot from like, your infantry gun boys can't hide behind whatever I'm charging, and then shoot them, which is important.
Yeah. You want to go to scenario?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for the breakdown of your list, though. Okay. The scenario we're playing today is head-to-head. We got our one neutral objective right here off this side. We got the the enemy objective and the friendly objective. It's 4 points for the neutral. 3 points for the neutral one, 4 points for the enemy objective, and it's kill points. You get 2 for the character, 2 for the regiment, and 2 for the warlord. The scenario kind of plays out. I've said this a bunch of times, where both players kind of make a beeline for the closer neutral objective. And then once this fight kind of kicks off, each player will kind of deploy what they think is sufficient forces to their friendly objective. And then one of the 2 players will make a play for the other person's personal objective, because either they are winning the battle in the middle. I'll just circle that in black. So like, they're winning this, or they're losing that, or they got to open up another front to see if they can kind of pull resources away from that. That's kind of how this goes. Yeah. You agree? Like, that's...
So I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, even... I think you mostly have to... I mostly agree with this. I think, though, what's interesting about it is, even if you win the... like, we'll say the left side of this, and you get into their back zone, even if you're scoring that, you're only, like, +1 point compared to their score. So if they're up... if they have 2 turns of scoring in that central zone before you're even able to capture their back zone, you're going to need to score what? That's like 3-6. You're going to need to score 6 turns of just that back zone in order to catch up. So you must win that front zone, or that middle zone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that you cannot ignore it. If you lose that and you get behind, you have to go after the other one. Like, you can cascade into that in order to just rack up points. But like, yeah, if you're gonna lose.
your goal in that middle one is more to like take it or stall your opponent out to stay consistent on score, or up on score off that middle one. So in case you lose your side one, and that's why people like realize, oh, the middle's not going well. I'm stalling, I need to make a play for my opponent's zone, and they start shooting themselves across the table towards their opponent's zone. Like,
yeah. So like if you can tie that middle zone, then it's worth it to score that back zone. But if you're losing that middle zone and the opponent is up on score, you're not going to win the game by just going for that back zone. You might be able to like equal it out, but if you just lose that green zone, because you're not going to fight the left-hand side, you're not going to go for that far objective first. Like,
No.
if you do, you're going to just get crushed even harder, realistically.
Yeah.
So you need to focus on that middle zone. And if you're losing it, I feel like the back zones are more of a like winning players win harder, but like you're not going to be able to win just if you're behind. You won't catch up with that back zone.
Also, players have to commit forces to defend it. Like, they can't just leave it open because their opponent will just be like, "Oh, you left this open. I'm just gonna beeline and take it." Like, it has.
Yeah.
At least like 1 to 2 regiments has to go over there to be like, "Yo, don't come at me, bro. I got stuff."
Yeah, it pretty much just forces you to like split your force allocation a bit, which I think is the main thing that I got wrong in this game, to be honest.
I think you might have over deployed stuff to one side and probably could have pulled some more resources a little better.
Yeah, if I put another unit of Avatara onto the center, I think I would have been able to hold off better.
Okay.
But yeah, I was thinking about it. So
yeah, now we get to do this battle report together, so we get to talk about it.
hell yeah.
All right, let's go to the table. Here is our table, and I got our wonderful neutral objective over there. You know what, we'll just put it like a little O in the middle. And then we got our friendly, and Skillen, you're in blue today. You're going to be the blue boy.
Yeah.
My opponent.
My army's pretty blue, so.
Yeah, look how blue they are. Just going to draw a big box.
Blue and white.
And red all over. So things that are going on, we got 3 forests. So, you know what, we're just going to put a F on all 3 of these. They're just hindering and obscuring. And then we got 2 Wada. 2 hills. These didn't really come up that much. And then 1 obstruction, what kind of splits the table a bit. I'm the one who made this table. I don't think it's bad, because it's using the 3 forests to defend the zones. Because you can't cover the middle, but you can put them in the zone. Like, you can't cover the middle of the zone, so just, like, this black dot, you can't cover that with terrain. But at least it's, like, relevant to the zone where, you know, if people are getting in, if people are trying to hit from the side, you got some terrain there to defend yourself from shooting. Like, I'm playing a gunline list, and Skillen, you have 3 shooting regiment. No, do you have 3? No, you have 2. Two. Thinking about the wrong guy. But you have Spires shooting, so it's still BS, so you need enough, defense against shooting, and then the waters kind of come up, but like way later in the game did they come up.
It just made it so that we were grinding it out slower because we were both in the water.
Yeah. Just
like I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like we both have an additional defense effectively.
Yeah. What do you think of this train setup? What's your thoughts?
Having played it, the big thing that I noticed is like the forest partially in the zone like that really favors monsters.
Yeah, it sure does.
Because you cannot easily get a unit in there. So no unit is going to be able to really take advantage of the forest while like being able to fully control that zone. But a monster counts as 3 stands and it just needs a toe in that forest, and you're just like, damn. So that's the most notable thing. Otherwise, yeah, I think originally there were 2 obstructions on here. I'm really glad we cut it down to 1 because with 2 it was just so suffocating.
Yeah, there would have been no ability to flank around certain parts of the table, because I played this scenario before, like I think a week ago, and it had 2 obstructions on it, and my opponent had very little ability to flank around the castle and to get to me, and I was just like, cool, I'm just going to set up and keep blasting because you have to come front on because of the 2 obstructions. So I'm like, no, you can't really put 2 on this table because the scenario forces a split, and you don't need the terrain to force a second split, what really bogs it down even more.
Yeah, like if you put, so for the other obstruction, if you put it on the far right side, now it makes a super funnel into that zone where you're already going to be concentrating like the rest of your like your entire, the majority of your army's already getting in there. So it's like, oh cool, let's just like, you know, it turns into like the wall, you know, where you're like, oh, there's like a little tiny breach, now we just slowly like grind against each other, and you're like, oh, okay. And if you put it on the other side, here, now it just completely like blocks off this, so it's just two where you just have to run straight head on at each other. And it's like, yeah, I know it's called head to head, but like I like to have a little bit of like positioning and maneuvering possibility, because there's essentially only like between that left side where it would be and the middle one, there's only enough for approximately 2 MSUs, which means there's only effectively like 2 lanes is how I think of it. And there's not enough space to run past it on the left side, really. So what that means is effectively you can't easily get anything through there. You could go too wide, I guess, but it's...
No, they have to
it really just slows everything down.
Like, they're supposed to be 9 inches away from each other. The stuff that's flat that you can move through, I'm a little more generous with, but I'm a little more hard on the obstructions, because like you gotta move around it. There's another idea, like if you dropped an obstruction here, like in the black.
Yeah, and then like another one
here, like on this water. That's a little better, but I find the problem with that, especially on this table, I'm gonna do it in orange, is that it's
asymmetrical.
Yeah, but it opens this up too much, and then forces, I'm just gonna do it in red, can like go that way. Like it opens the table up too much like the fights can just like go either way. Sorry, what kind of ends up happening is that the middle zone, you could pull very easily your regiments from the side, the friendly and enemy zone towards the neutral zone, or off the neutral towards your opponent much easier. What doesn't affect your choice on when you're putting regiments to defend those zones or to take those zones. Like it just adds way too much flexibility, and also if you can control that center, you basically control the entire game.
And there's another thing too, right? Because this table is so asymmetrical, you see how it's set up. This heavily favors the person, like your position, right? Because you can fight for this thing on the right, and then you can like basically like flex over to the left.
Yeah. So
right? Whereas like for me, like from the other side, like you're getting wedged super hard early, and you can't cascade over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this actually happened, I believe it was my round 3 Adepticon, where there was like a big wheat field in the middle where that orange box was.
Oh my god.
And there was 2 buildings roughly where those black squares were. And I was playing the all horse list, and I was playing another 100k player who was playing 1 unit of Ashendon, and our 2 units of Ashendons hit each other right in the middle, and then grinded out for the entirety of the game. And I just took the rest of my forces and was like, ooh, just gonna go take over that. Ooh, just gonna take over that. Okay, I've killed everything else that's not in the middle, and I'm on the zones, and our Ashendon are still fighting in the middle. Like, whoop-de-doo. Like that's the issue with this scenario. If you don't block up the middle, it just makes it way too open. And once you control that middle, the transition for each of the zones just happens too quick. And if an opponent doesn't know how to deal with that, or doesn't have the proper tools to deal with that, they just lose.
I feel like this is one of the scenarios in particular that like the general tournament terrain packet doesn't adequately address it. And I think that this is one where it should just define like, oh, somewhere within like this, you know how there's like the grid? If they just are like, yeah, you must have like at least one obstructing in the middle, like basically 2 feet of the table, and like you only put one obstructing, that would probably be fine. Because otherwise this scenario gets real... The map really can skew this scenario pretty hard if you... depending on how you set the table up, especially with the obstructing terrain.
So in War Machine, they basically made a scenario rule that you had to have a piece of obstructing, or... well, it's called line of sight blocking. You had a piece of line of sight blocking terrain in the middle foot of the table. Like basically you measure like 12 inches out. We'll do it in black, and you could like you just had to have a piece like that in the middle. And the big thing about that was it reduced gun lines by a ton.
Yeah.
Because the issue was before, in the previous edition of War Machine, was that people would take their terrain and basically leave the purple, like just leave the middle open. and
yeah, it'd be like all terrain to hide in,
to the
and
side.
then no man's land.
Yeah, and it was really bad, so they forced it, and that's why I'm like, okay, there has to be obstruction. There has to be like some. That's why I did like this forest that I'm gonna circle in red over here, because it's in the middle. If I'm on my side of it shooting at you, I'm being hindered. If you're on your side of it shooting at me, I'm hindered. If we're in it, like whoever is more aggressive and takes the zone will have the advantage to stay away from gunshots. Like that's what it's there for.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's supposed to like. Gun lines are absolutely oppressive on parking lots. Use the terrain to not have a parking lot.
Yeah, totally.
So that's why that was there. You want to go to turn 1? We've talked a lot about this table in theory on this scenario.
Yeah, I feel like the terrain though is like in terms of the way that I think of the game, it's like, okay, do you know how to play your list? It's like, do you know what your opponent's list is and how it plays? And then it's like, do you know the terrain? And it's like, if you know those 3 things, you can win. If you don't know those, you're going to probably lose.
Yeah. So what I would tell what I tell a lot of people if they're trying to get better and they want to like use some theory and knowledge if they're on top of their games, but it's like, as you said, know your list, know your opponent's list, know scenario, know terrain, and then know the rest of the game. And what I mean by the rest of the game is I mean every other person's faction and what they do. Like this was in Conquest, I feel like terrain matters more, but so that's why it's another bullet point. But you could just say scenario and terrain are the same thing. Like you can group them together. So it was like know your stuff, know your opponent's list, know the scenario, know the game. Like those are the 4 things
I would
to be good at the game, or like have a high knowledge base of it.
Yeah, I would leave scenario distinct just because it's like depending on how the scenario and terrain as distinct points. Because if you're playing the same scenario, but the terrain is substantially different, it can actually like force you to like alter how you deploy.
Yeah, that is true. They're like, it's one of the reasons why I like traveling to places, because I want to see how other people play in their stores and what terrain they do, because like TOs, other players, they're all going to throw terrain in different ways, and so it doesn't like get me stuck in a rut on how I build my tables. Like I build my tables basically to hopefully give both sides a chance, so that one side isn't oppressed, because like I've seen what gun lines can do. Like I've played War Machine, I've seen a top of 2 assassination with a gun line. It's absolutely brutal. The opponent doesn't do anything. So I know what gun lines can do, and that's why terrain is put into a spot so that it can reduce that, but still allow the gun line to do its thing, but allow the player who's receiving the gun line not to be affected as much. And so there's times where I go into other events and there's like, you know, holes in the middle, or there isn't as big terrain pieces and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it allows you to play differently.
I don't like that.
It's okay, we'll travel more. Alright, let's go to turn 1. It's already been like 50 minutes. Oh, we're here for a while, buddy. Okay, so turn 1. I get my Hold Ballista and my Steel Shaper. Good old Skillen gets his Strix. I believe you won the roll-off, or I told you to go first.
Yeah. Ironically, I think I've lost every single roll-off. I don't remember winning a single one this game.
You won the one where you killed one of my Hellbringer Drakes with a bunch of Onslaught drones.
Yeah, okay. I think by then it was kind of like it didn't matter as much, though.
Yeah. Or I didn't think you were going to go with the Onslaught drones. I know you won like a couple near the end, but yeah, I was winning a lot of them. So you run up there, I run up here. The reason why I'm going here is that I want to create my... I'll do it in black. I want to create my Dweghom Fortress here. Because you deployed the Strix first, I think you did a really good job of throwing them in the woods over there. They can hop over that objective if need be. But I want to use... Or sorry, that obstruction. I want to use that obstruction to protect my flank, because I don't want to be bogged down by them. So I'm planning to kind of run over to where that black line is. And then that'll
It did force you to deploy much more to your left than I think you wanted to.
Yeah, I was thinking of like putting... Yeah, because if you didn't have Strix, I didn't have to worry about their ridiculousness. I probably would have deployed like here-ish.
Yeah.
And just gone straight up the table that way. But knowing you had Strix, I need to protect myself in case you just do a long bomb and want to like bog me down early on.
Yeah.
So yeah. I like this play out of you though, because you keep them safe because you're worried about the gun line, but also still relevant because they can just like threat project super far.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people will take like most factions have some kind of a very fast light unit that's very threatening, but just dies. Like Hunting Pack is another good example. What is it? Mounted Squires. You just want to deploy them not too far ahead, and that's always like when I'm trying to like help teach newer players the game, I'm like, yeah, you see that? Like, you don't have to move all the way up. Like, it's better if you just hold them back because the rest of the army needs to support them. Otherwise, you overextend with them. They get swarmed by like just random garbage units and just murdered and don't accomplish anything.
Yeah, and my Ballista like ran up 9.5 because when my Hellbringer Drakes come on, they'll run like 14 if I want to, depending on how I set up my stack and depending on what you're doing, and they'll hop the Ballistas, and then the Ballista can go and just like hop them later. I'll do it in order. So you can double march. So I can kind of do a little bit of hopping. So if you like get really aggressive, because I know you have marksman clones, I can hold my Ballista back, but still allow the Hellbringer Drake to draw you out, get into its proper position, and then hop the Ballistas. So that's why I've been running them at 9.5, and it's just been helping my ability not to step on my toes so much more as I've been playing games with Dweghom.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the way to go. When I was running the Siege Breaker, I would specifically measure basically so that any unit that I wanted the Siege Breaker to get in front of, I would always just deploy it Siege Breaker move distance minus the width of its base.
Yeah.
So as you have like drawn up there. And yeah, it works way better.
Okay. Turn 2?
Yep.
Alright, here's turn 2. I get both my Drakes and Wizards and a unit of Fireforge. Skillen does really well in his roll-off, getting Marksman Clones, Brutes with Ferromancer, Double Avatara, and Leonin Avatara. When we did this, I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting 3 things in this turn. It's like 5 cards plus my other 2. This will be awesome. And then you were like rolled really well, and I'm like, what is fucking shucks? I thought I would have had an advantage, and I could like run some stuff up, and it's like, nope.
Yeah, ironically, I think this is the turn that caused me to lose.
Oh, okay.
Spoilers, I guess.
Well, that's okay. Do you want me to talk about my deployment and why I pick stuff, and then we'll go to you?
Sure.
Okay, so I basically spend the first 3 cards. Skill and I basically draw into each other with characters, and I spend both my my Fire Wizards not doing anything because I know Skillen's not. He won't fall for the trap of running something really far forward where I can like double march a Hellbringer break out of deployment and then just pop a fireball into it really quick. Like I've seen some people do that, and I know Skillen won't fall for it, so I'm just going to start drawing them out because he's not going to fall for that trap. He, dawdles with his Strix right here, I believe, at some point, draws his characters, and then we kind of get into movement. I believe because you had so much more cards than me, I decided to put the Ballistas first, and I just like run up 10. I think they go there 10, which is as far as they can go. And then I put my Fireforge on this zone because I know you got both Avatara, and I think at that point you dropped an Avatar over here. And I also need to like protect this zone, but I just need something to kind of be over there for now. I don't need anything like super crazy. And so Fireforge kind of do the job, and if you do blitz me this way, those Fireforge could potentially like move over to shoot. Like that's the idea.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, but it's there. I kind of fucked this up a little bit. I should have had them over more, like here, so that they were within 8 inches of this Drake. But they were like out by an inch or 2.
I think you're kind of lucky that you had them where they were, though.
Yeah, but they all like as the game went on, they kind of need to be there. But then also like in later turns, I moved them over. Like I side shuffle them at one point just because I realize you're coming for me and I need to get 3 stands on the zone for you to not just like steal it from me, like make you work for it. So there's that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then both drakes just run up the table. One drake, as you can see, is looking to, I'll circle in black, get basically right where that corner is, because he's in the forest, in the zone, scoring it, staying defense because he got those marksman clones across from me. The other drake, I need it to hide behind the ballista wall. I kind of wanted it, I'll do it in orange, I wanted it over here a little more, but I kind of needed it behind the ballista wall more. And so he was stuck in the position he currently is, the one circle in orange. Kind of went from there.
Yeah, he kind of got stranded and ended up kind of dying for it.
Yeah, well, I made another mistake, but that's turn 3. So, your deployment. Where do you want to start with?
So I could just kind of go through like the way that I deployed it, I guess. So what I tend to do is I'll put like Avatara on the weak flank to just kind of like establish that right away. And I don't want to deploy, I want to deploy my marksman clones specifically as late as possible, because if you walk within 27 inches of my edge of the table, I get to walk on and shoot you. And if it's a good position and you're within 27 inches, it's like, oh, I wanted to go there anyways, then, you know, hey, free lunch. So then I just kind of, I don't think I moved the Strix because I just needed to burn some activations to force the Drakes out mostly. Then I deployed the other Avatar there because I was like, okay, these Strix are ultimately not long for this world once they get engaged, so I'll just make sure that this flank is well defended. And I think that was actually the mistake. I think these Avatar that are probably behind the Strix are fine. These ones on the side, I should have like probably put them on this far right side, somewhere in there maybe.
Like or over here, I'll do you in, you'll be purple for theory. So over here, like by the lineage, or like
either they needed to be on this half of the table for sure.
Okay.
I could have maybe swapped the position of the brute drones and the marksman clones, but some of that was because it's like, okay, I've got to put the brute drones on before the marksman clones, and as a result it's like, well, I have to put them somewhere, and like central is usually good. And then it all kind of it was okay. It wasn't an ideal positioning or whatever. It kind of like created this scenario where the brute drones were a little bit lined up with your hold ballistae that are chilling out in the forest, but I don't want to like, it's not like so close that I need to like do something aggressive, but I can just exert some pressure on you. And then yeah, the marksman clones need to be central so that they can hit a lot of targets. They need to constantly be hammering on the Drakes in particular, I think. The Leonine, I don't know. I haven't played them enough to have a good idea of how to play them. I think I misplayed them here, but I don't know what the better choice is.
I think for the theory of this with your fuck me, how do they say it? Leonine. I think for your Leonine, I think you did a good job, because in purplish pink, there's this whole wide open area that I'm going to be bringing more stuff on, and you can just kind of like shoot in, shoot out, like pop in, pop out, because of your fluid and all that stuff.
That was the hope.
And then as you clean that up with Leonin, and then kind of pull me back more as I potentially chase you, and then you clean that up, you can then move over to start working on a Drake as well. Like, the Drake in the woods, like, obviously that one Drake is going to get in the woods. He's going to be a huge problem for you and your shots. But you have other targets off the bat. But you kind of want that quality of shots, and you were going to get it onto the Ballista or the Drake because of them going to be sitting in the woods soon, even if the Ballista, like, all their stands don't get it because they're going to be half in, half out. But the ones that are in the woods, and that's the side you're on, going to be shooting through, are going to get it. But that entire purple area, you have shots, so I don't think it was bad. I think if you deployed them onto the other side or in the middle, I think you would have been
Yeah.
stepping on your toes, and if you deployed them on the left side where the 2 Avatar are, I think you would have overcommitted forces at that point.
Well, I think like swap out the Avatar onto the right side.
Just swap them like Prideborn
Basically.
and Avatar can just... Yeah, that probably wouldn't be too bad, to be honest.
That may have been better. I don't know. Because again, it's like minor differences in like force distribution, or like minor errors in force distribution or allocation is what cost me this one. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Okay, turn 3.
Yeah.
Here's turn 3. Okay, so I get 2 cards, and I just pick for both my Steel Forge because I realize you got everything. You got your Vanguard and Onslaughts as well as your Incarnate block. And so I'm in a really bad spot, and I knew I would have to be reinforcing my castle walls. What in orange is these 3 guys right here. And so the best reinforce is the eggs, so I was like, I need both eggs. And I need for sure one of the eggs to make his way up and over into the zone. While what was it? I need probably something to be over here where these Steel Forge are to kind of like keep you away from my other zone and also like reinforce. Flank. Yeah, because like you dropped 4 regiments over there, and I was like, oh. Or sorry, you had 3 off the bat, and I'm like, well, Strix are gonna die no matter what to these 2 things, and then it's just then we're gonna roll off and fight over like the Avatara. And I'm like, well, if the dice go my way and I get some supremacies and blah blah blah, like I can win that fight into the Avatara. Like if Steel Forge can probably take an Avatar unit, and then if the guns from the Fire Forge over on that left side, they'll probably like weaken an Avatar before they get charged if everything goes well, and then I can, you know, kind of carry from there. So I was really fine with that. And then I believe I checked, and this is like 8 inches if I need to heal them or anything off a token generation, so I was still good there. Fireforge, they just shuffle into the zone. The more get their 3 stands, lock that down. And then Blissday, just run up more to kind of... Oh, what are they doing? They were doing something. Oh yeah, they had to double march because I wouldn't have been able to keep my Hellbringer Drake away, or get it on the zone and in the forest at the same time. So then this Hellbringer Drake gets on the zone. I believe he just walks and then shoots into your brutes, but you've like buffed the brutes with a bunch of your
induced vigor,
like Ferromancies, and then I just like barely do any damage, or I didn't do any damage.
Took 0 damage.
Yeah, it was great. And then this one moved up, shot, and then dropped like a shitty fireball into you, and you still took 0 damage. And then your marksmen shoot me right in the face, and that really sucked.
Did like 6 damage.
Did 6? Yeah, it real sucked.
That's what marksmen do.
Yeah, so that's, and then at the very end you marched on the Incarnates and then did that 7-inch march to get them to kind of where they are currently.
I think you still score this point though, which is like feels bad moment.
Oh, did you only have? It looks like you have 3 there on it though.
I don't think I could have gotten enough on. Maybe. Yeah.
Looks like you had 3.
Wait, no. You have 3
and then
and one of your Ballistae,
yeah,
I believe. So it was contested.
Oh, it's for sure contested.
But yeah. I don't know. That was kind of rough, but I was like, oh shit, I have to charge into the woods, or I just stand here and get shot to death, because it's like, sweet. So yeah, I decided to do that in order to contest now, so that I don't get super far behind on points. I don't know. I still think like this is the right move, or like assuming I play this the same, I still think like popping it this turn is the one.
Yeah, because then you really force the issue. But
yeah.
I'm using terrain defensively. You have to chew through Ballistae. Your shots, you have a good target for your marksman, but your Leonian, so from me to you, these guys shuffle out of 14 or out of 16. These guys shoot my Hellbringer, it's great. Brutes kind of move up a little bit. I think you go for a long bomb and fail and moved up an inch.
Yeah, I forgot that they have
Unstoppable.
Unstoppable, so I should have re-rolled it. It was only like, I think it was like a 3 or a 4 up. With Unstoppable, it's like, I'm like, okay, if I get it now, then like, yay. Otherwise, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I rolled a 1, so.
Onslaught's coming up from behind, I think, is not bad because they can hop and get in, or they can fill the gap when things are dying. This over here, I think, was kind of a problem. I think you dropped your Vanguards over here. Was kind of fine because I think you were looking to drop them. I'm gonna do this in purple again over here, but we kind of figured out that was not a great place for them.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to essentially block off the Leonines. It's probably fine actually, but because I don't want things to get into contact. Actually, I think that that's the correct play for the Vanguard clones. If I leave the 2 Avatar over here, that's fine, and then run the Vanguard clones up here, that's actually probably the best play now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, because the other issue I have with your left side play in that big blue circle is that both Avatar and Strix just basically sat. Like, you didn't have to be like super aggressive with it, but I think you could have moved like, you could have just moved up to like here or something. And
the reason I did that was I had them in there essentially as like dead draws, and I didn't want these Fireforge to just like open up and like light up like Strix or something. I could have probably gotten the Strix into the woods, and then that would have put a lot of like on the close side, and that would have put a lot of pressure onto you because they have like a 20-inch move. These egg carriers though, beside your Fireforged on the left here, were kind of like I knew something was coming in there, and I was like, it could be like another unit of Fireforged, and then it's like, that's also not great. That's actually kind of what I was thinking. So because I had these at the top of my deck in order to dead draw out, because I just wanted to get your what do you call it? Essentially I wanted to get your so I had like the Ferromancer buffed his unit, and then I think it was mostly I think I shot you, and then I pretty much was dead drawing in order to draw out as much of this like central block as possible to see where it was, so that I could like try to like get in and attack it and stuff. And I was thinking about moving those Leonine Avatar up in order to like attack the that Drake on the right, but because you're in the woods, I was like, oh, that's not that great. And then also your Steelforged on the right here were kind of like putting a lot of pressure, and I'm like, oh, this is bad, because if they cascade in, then basically I've lost this central battle, and that really sucks.
Yeah.
So,
and then like if you were within 14 of the Drake, I would have popped shots and fireballed you.
Exactly. So you're definitely right. I should have started to push with them. I was just kind of like thinking like, oh, a lot of times I get into trouble because I overextend on the weak flank, and then like I start catching like stray shots or catching charges from like your Steelforged and your like Fireforged over here. So I'd prefer if they had like activated before I start trying to like do anything cheeky. So I was just a little conservative on this side.
Yeah. Okay. Turn 4, and we get to watch me be sad.
Oh yeah, this is
true high-end tactical gameplay of me being sad. All right, let's go to turn 4. All right, turn 4. Good things that happen. Get both Fireforged regiments in. Bad things that happen. So I believe I win the roll-off.
You failed both.
And I think I activate this Drake first. I have this...
Yep.
Do I have this Drake first? No. I had this Drake go first.
Yeah.
Because I knew Avatar were coming into me, but I didn't think the Drake had enough shots to kill at least one stand. But because it's a back stand, you're only losing one attack, so I didn't think it was worth it. I thought it was worth it to go kill your brutes, and I do kill a stand, and put some wounds on the other one. What's good, it's just that when I drew my fireball, I failed. And at that point, you would put your Incarnate Sentinels into my Ballista, who did pretty well in holding. Like, they took, like, 2 stands off, and I was like, oh, okay, not bad. And then I activate the other Drake, who then unloads, I believe, into these guys, because I couldn't get the line of sight on you or something. Or maybe I shot... You know what? Actually, I believe. Because your
everything went...
your brutes were back here at the time, so... And you're on the hill, so... I just shot over and got them again, and that's where I killed off a stand and put some wounds on another one. And then my next 2 cards are the fireballs, and they just completely whiff, and I had to like walk away and sit down and just like cool off, because it was just like, wow, couldn't roll 2 successes on 3s on 7 dice twice. Like, what is happening right now? So this was a real sad moment for me. But Brutes got hit. My Ballistas activate. I think they inspired clashed into Incarnates. They did like 2, maybe 3 wounds at most. They eat a bunch of Aura Death. Your Brutes come in and hurt me. Onslaughts move up. Marksman, once again, shoot into my Drake. I spend some tokens. I spent some tokens healing the Drake and trying to keep it alive longer, because he's just in a really bad spot. And I probably should have just backed up with that Drake. Like, shot randomly and then backed up to try and stay out of your 22.
I don't think that Drake was long for this world, no matter what.
No, he really wasn't. He should never have been that far forward. Like, he should have dawdled. I'm gonna do it in orange. Like, he should have dawdled over here for like a turn or 2.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have been that aggressive. But on turn 4, we're now fighting it out. So, I come back after my sadness fest, and I'm like, well, I need a 5 to get in, and I like roll a 3 and walk up, and I'm like, yay, like, fucking great or something. Like, I don't get it, and I'm just like, dude, fucking stupid. I'm just all pissed off. But this is actually a mistake on my part, because I'm just all pissed off about my spellcasting dice. I should have just march charged you.
Yeah, you get impacts. Like,
well, I would have gone through the hindering, because they would have like ended up. I'll do it in orange.
Oh yeah.
Here-ish. Actually, that stand hadn't died yet, so they would have been 1 stand. Ugh, that is terrible. 1, 2, 3. They would have been like that. So they would have got all 3 in, but I would have probably had 2 stands in the woods, what would have reduced impacts. But then I'm in the fight with you, and I'm keeping you off my Drakes for later, and that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
And I was just all like, this game's bullshit, and I'm just all pissed off because both my both my fireballs completely whiffed, and I'm like, I fucking hate this.
And like, getting them in early is good too, because it just, like, yeah, you lose your impacts, but you're doing a march charge. At that point, you already know that the Incarnates have clashed. You're not getting clapped back, so you just get in there early, and then you can like you said, hold me away from your Drake for an extra turn.
Yeah, and
then. At least, and then you can like clash me kind of like in an uncontested way early on next round.
Yeah, so that would have been, and then I almost have contesting stands because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, while I currently only have 3, so I could have actually scored that with the 6.
Yeah,
but
I think I scored the central zone this turn.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did.
That was it. Yeah, this was the only turn I scored that.
And then you move your Leonian avatar up. I don't think you don't shoot the Drake because it doesn't have any wound markers. I think you just move up and like fiddle around. I think they should just put their shots into the Drake anyway.
I think I did, or no, I was like trying to stay out of range because I didn't want to just like get fireballed. Yeah, I was playing too tentatively with them.
Yeah, but
I should have just like.
That caused the problem where I wheeled on some Fireforge who just like. This stands within 14 of this stand, and I pop you and take out a stand. We have found
this is the pivotal moment.
Yeah, we have found between Fireforge and Leonian, whoever kills a stand first is gonna win that fight. But it's a pretty close match between the two of them. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I got this unit's gonna be locked down. The next thing is I could have
actually put the. I just realized I could have put the Leonine like even at the bottom of my deck, and that may have been a better choice. I left what's the left side of this of the table for the bottom, but
yeah, because this side didn't matter because there was no fights. This was the fight, like this was the fight side. We had to get these fights done. Realizing that my Ballista bunker is falling apart, Fireforge run up to reinforce. Either get shot into the brutes, shots into the incarnates. Even use their bodies at some point if need be, but that's why those guys are there. My 2 guys just shuffle. You then activate all this. You're finally starting to make the move here because you realize, like, oh, okay, the right side fight is going on. We're gonna see what comes out of that. But these Strix are still far back, and these Avatara could have started making their move because I don't have the speed to come at you, and I don't need to be unblocked up while you have 4 activations, a lot more maneuverability to just come off the zone. Like, those Avatar aren't doing anything back there. Like, I'm never...
Yeah.
Like, my Fire Forge are sitting on the back edge of my zone just to keep you away from it.
Yeah, that was also a misplay, is just not developing that left flank more aggressively, which I definitely should have, because at that point it's like, I could have pushed a lot harder and then just used the Strix to kind of stuff the Steel Forged in, like probably already, and then just like run the Avatara up and tried to get as much as I could, just like ram the Fireforged with as much as possible and set up a countercharge with one of the Avatara against the the Steel Forge. Like, I could have like set even the Strix up in front of that. Well, I didn't want the Strix to get shot, but I could have kind of like,
I think you could have just flooded
move
the
them
zone
up further.
Yeah, like you could have just flooded the zone with like 2 regiments, and then you have more scoring stands than me. And it's Fireforge, like they want to shoot, they don't want to be in melee, so there's that. Yeah,
this is definitely like a weak play on that left flank for sure. And then like the Leonine Avatara, that I think was like quite pivotal because it caused me to like, well, we'll see how it cascades, but that was like really rough.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say on this? I think I kind of covered it all. Like, Brutes went into... You're trying to bust through the Balliste bunker right now, because you kind of have to get into the GC Drakes, but... And I'm trying to, like...
yeah, I mean, I'm beating them to death as efficiently as I think I can right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, from like 6 down to like... well, I guess 5 stands down to 1 in the character. It's like... Not bad in terms of efficiency.
Yeah, because you broke me, I rallied, and then you broke me again.
Did I? Did I break you twice?
I think you did,
oh, damn.
And I rallied in between.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Damn.
Okay. Turn 5? Alright, here's turn 5. So, things that go on. I'm pretty sure I win the roll-off. Drake and Caster unload into the Brutes, and I pop them and kill them. Sweet. Your Carnage...
Yeah, that dramatically changed my turn, by the way.
Yeah, well, fucking got a fireball off. Like, it would have been much better if I, got 2 other fireballs off the previous turn. But even then, I think I rolled 2 successes anyway, so I was like, well, fuck me. And then oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do, what I had in the top of my stack was the, Ferromancer, then it was the Incarnate Sentinels, and then it was the Brute Drones. So had I won Supremacy, I would have been able to pop the, I would have been able to pop the Biomancy to, depends on like the specific thing, but if I can have reroll 6s, if I can do Induced Vigor, then it like takes some of the sting out of like the amount of like suffering those Incarnates are about to endure.
Yeah,
because that's like probably 3 wounds just from Tenacious, and then reroll 6s, and I was like bombing the rolls on those guys this round, so they like died real fast.
Yeah, because I think I had 3 tokens saved up on that Hellbringer who just unloaded.
Yeah, unloaded.
Oh, this is the one where this guy didn't even get his fireball off because he had no targets.
Yep.
So I killed the Brutes with the Hellbringer. So you draw your Ferromancer, then you draw your Incarnates who, I guess, kill the Balliste and then charge me? Because I only had 5 wounds left.
Yeah, just to stop you from doing more shooting with that Drake. Because I know that Drake's going to be alive for a while. And I was like, do I want to eat all those shots? Like, not if I can help it.
And then I don't know. The Steel Shaper kills off one Avatara with like his clashback when he dies.
Yeah, I was having defensive rolls for those guys. I mean, I guess it evens out for the Brute Drones, which also did that.
Yeah, and then
I don't know.
Then we had Steel Forge charge in, do a bunch of damage. You lose like 3 stands. You've charged me because you just clashed and then charged me, but you're in the hindering terrain, so you didn't do any impacts.
Yeah. It also forced, I think, Ore of Death. Or...
Yeah.
Not this turn, but I did Ore of Death.
Yeah, you did Ore of Death because I activate this Hellbringer Drake right here, and then he takes a bunch of Ore of Death. I then clash you, kill off a guy. You run away with your Leonian Avatara. You just run and bounce. Because you didn't want to...
This is the turn I shot at your Drake.
Yeah, it's because they fluid, march, and then shoot at their volley 3. I take some damage.
It was like 2.
Yeah, it wasn't a ton.
3.
And then,
yeah.
This Hellbringer actually fireballed Incarnates and did like 3 wounds. But I think your last Incarnate has like 3 health left or something.
Yeah.
Because these Fireforge just take aim and shoot at her, but they're only half shots because of the woods. And you got like 1 Incarnate left. They're broken, you rally yourself. I think there's like 3 stands to my 5, so I score the zone.
Yeah.
And at that point...
This is the turn where I knew it was over.
Yeah, and at that point I'm like, okay, kill the Incarnates. Steelforge, get into, like, next turn, get into the Prideborn Avatara. Fireforge, start getting over here because you, like, spent your turn shooting. They were just within 14 of that one stand right there, if people can see that.
That was the other thing that I forgot.
Yeah, because you moved into their shooting range when you charged the Hellbringer. Because I only had 2 stands in before, and now I had all 3.
Like, all of them, yeah.
I just take aim and shot you. You did run up these onslaughts because you're like looking at that one Drake who has like 3 wounds left because you
I was hoping he would be dead by now.
No.
I botched that roll with the marksman clones shooting into it this turn.
I've spent
nothing.
Spent all my tokens to heal.
Even still though, it was a pretty weak roll.
Yeah.
I was like, oh sweet.
This was my sadness right here. So I was thinking of like, oh, am I going to put Steelforge last or am I Fireforge? I'm like, oh, I'll put Fireforge last, like, whatever. No, I should put Steelforge last because I activate Steelforge, like, dirtled up the table, and then you're like, oh, Strix, get him. And I could have just clashed you and killed off your Strix this turn and then freed them up for next turn. But no, now I got to wait a turn, killing fucking Strix.
Yeah, I was like, oh, sweet. Like, sometimes it is Christmas in July.
Yeah.
That was literally Christmas in July for me. I was like, thank you.
I believe you March charged me with the Vanguard clones. And I'm like, cool, Fireforge like killed off a stand. Cool. And then you just got your Avatara who just ran up the table. So right now you're not scoring that zone, and that's all I need to do is like keep you from scoring. But then once again, these Avatar over here
too far back.
They're not contributing. And
if I had moved the Avatar up a little more aggressively on that flank, I could have probably scored that zone this turn, and that would have kept me in the game for at least like another turn. I knew I had lost by the end of this turn though. Like I even said to you, I was like, well, I cannot catch up to you on scoring. I think it was like end of next turn, but I kind of knew by this turn that I was like, oh, the scoring situation is real bad.
To me, I'm gonna circle it in orange, but this had to be resolved before I would like have called it. Because this can still go either way. You still have like 2 Prideborns. You still have your marksmen who are shooting. You still have like your onslaughts. Like dice can go either way, and it's not just a assured thing right now. And we'll see. Turn 6.
I think I lost supremacy on this one as well. So like losing supremacy on this turn was like real rough because it's like I was saying, I could have done the Ferromancer, right? Induce lethargy on your unit, and then also pop Biomancy to toughen up the the Incarnate Sentinels, and then chain activate into my Brute Drones. The Brute Drones then proceed to just continue beating your your Hold Ballista to death.
Yeah.
That frees up my my Incarnates to actually do Charge Clash, which is what I wanted.
Yeah.
But
so as you see,
you don't get it.
Killing the characters in Spires is the way to go. Just shuts them down. All right, let's go. Go ahead.
You can tell because it's like the amount of time when talking about the list, it's like, oh, I talk about this character and all the things that the character does in order to buff the unit up, and then like the unit, I'm like, it's a rock. I hit you in the rock with the head to kill you. Like, that's what the unit does.
Yeah, I think you could have just moved back your brutes and Ferromancer and just like had the Onslaughts run up. Like they run up, like Ferromancer does all his activations, Onslaughts run up in front, and then the Brute and the Ferromancer just kind of back away from the Drake to stay out of threat range, and then you would have been fine.
Yeah.
Turn 6?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and also those Avatara that are back there. I think if I committed them earlier, like started moving them up a turn earlier or 2 turns earlier,
yeah, I know,
been much stronger.
They just sat too far back.
Yeah, so that was a mistake for sure.
All right, here's turn 6. So crazy amount of things happen.
Lots of things are dead.
Yeah. We have. I choose Fireball first. I hit the Incarnates. I do 3 damage. Incarnate lives on 1 health, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes. Like, I was just like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You activate your Onslaughts, who charge my Drake and kill my Drake. The Rider dies fighting, kills off a stand, you decay, you're like, have 6 wounds left. I was actually hoping to like have that Rider alive so that I could like flame wall you or something.
Yeah, you were really surprised. You seemed really surprised when I did that, and I was like,
I thought you would Incarnate first.
No, I was like, Incarnates are basically a lost cause. I was like, well, whatever. If they can get some Aura of Death or whatever, I'm like, I need to start killing your sorcerers off like right now.
Yeah.
And like at that point, the Incarnates were just pinning that other Drake, and I was like, cool, they're already doing their job. I'm just gonna keep shooting you now.
Yeah, and then
Onslaughts killed your Drake.
And then I like dead draw Sorcerer, draw Drake, take some more Aura of fucking Death, bite you to death because you only have like 1 wound left. And you finally die.
Yep.
I believe these guys shoot into the Drake, but me sitting in the woods kind of keeps me around a little longer.
Yeah.
That
was a mistake too, actually. I should have moved those Leonines first because like I was like, oh, I'm in danger, and I was like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, because then I have the Steel Forge now freed up, who just, I think they they totally march charge you because you were a little out, and you reformed the Leonine into me. And we had a fight back, but you didn't do any melee damage, and I just did some.
Their melee stats are bad.
Yeah,
I should have known that, but it just I have not played any games with this unit. I was like, oh, Vanguard clones or Vanguard clone infiltrators can clap back pretty hard actually, and then these guys a little less. I think
it's all about their shooting. Yeah, and I talked to Carl about this, and he's like, you don't want Steelforge to catch Leonian. Because they'll not live. They're going to get mauled to death. And the Dweg player is going to march charge them, tie them down. You're not going to be able to escape, and then they're going to kill you next turn. So that was like I already knew how this encounter was going to go once I touched you.
And that was when I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I better be scoring your other zone every single turn because the point, like I was down by like 3.
Yeah,
I think. I was down by either 3 or 6. I was like, well, maybe if I can score the left-hand side every single round for the rest of this game, I could tie it up. That did not happen.
No. So Fireforge just kind of like run up. They can't really do anything because the Steelforge are blocking, so they just kind of run to be in the way. These Fireforge shoot the Onslaughts, blow them up. They just take straight damage because of the AP2. Over on the right side are my Steelforge kill off your Strix. Your Strix do enough lethal into the Steelforge that I lose a stand. I didn't inspire, so I charge into the side of your Vanguard clones, kills off a stand, and then you fight my Fireforge to I'll do that box a little better. You fight my Fireforge, who takes a bunch of wounds but lives. I clap back, kill you, but your Avatara hit me before you get into them. And your Avatara, like, you only get 6 dice from this, and I believe you rolled poorly and didn't get inspired.
No, I got 8 dice. Because of support too.
So you got 8 dice, but I remember you didn't get inspired because of charging through the woods, and you only rolled like 2 hits, and I think I made their saves or something, so that one
also, I just rolled a bucket of like 5s and 6s.
Yeah.
Like, if I had inspired, it would have gotten me like, I think I got 2 hits. It would have gotten me an additional 1 hit. Yeah. I was like, sweet. I'm like, inspiring wouldn't have done shit, but whatever.
Yeah,
I guess I could have. Well, I was thinking about reforming into your flank, no, you can't do that. But like potentially reforming, but because of like where you were and stuff, I couldn't, and I was like, I'm kind of stuck here. This really sucks.
Yeah, and then that Fireforge guy lives on like 1 health, and then you march charge from here into the Steel Forge and do impact attacks, and I'm like, all right, guess you got 3 stands, I got 3 stands, we're good.
Yep.
So I score this middle zone again. At this point,
I did not score that side zone.
No, at this point I'm looking to try and get these Steel Forge into these marksmen, and then hopefully my Drake can the Drake and the Fireforge over here can like go this way to help out. We'll find out what happens to that last Drake.
I'm thinking about score maxing right now. I'm like, well, I'll at least minimize it. I'm like, I'm killing Drake out of spite. I'm killing that Drake. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm like, I lost and I can't win. I'm like, fine, I'm taking your Drake. I'm taking your whole castle with me at least.
It's just the people running around, all the peasants, all the eggs. Are like,
yeah, pretty much.
They're like, oh, I gotta keep the eggs safe.
It's like, oh, I crushed. It's like an anteater, or like, or like a. Yeah, like tearing through like a termite nest. It's like the walls are all ripped apart. All the little bugs are like, help me. They're just getting licked up.
Alright, let's go to turn 7. And here's turn 7. So, Steel Forge, I believe I just clash and kill your Leonian right off the clash and just like march up 6 to get into your marksman. Your marksman in response, just kill my Drake. Just straight up, he's dead.
I told you, I was like, oh, I'm over blood. I'm taking him.
Put an X in that. With no longer the Drake sitting there and scoring that zone, I just shuffle the Fireforge over there to like score it, and then I'm like, all right, Steel Forge, go fight those marksman clothes. Fireforge, hang out over here. You need to score the zone.
Honestly, putting those Fireforged in that side deployment was like so clutch because it injured those Leonines, which greatly, it was real bad, and I was like, oh, I have to run away. And see, if you didn't have something to like hold that zone or whatever, you'd at least not have anything to stand in that zone. So I could just like, either you stand in the zone and I shoot you to death, or you come for me and kill me and then have to turn around and then run back to the zone, which means you're not scoring for like all those turns.
Probably 3 turns, yeah. So I would have probably, if these Fireforge weren't here, I'm just circle them in orange.
Yeah, those are the homies. Those are doing work.
After killing those Leonian, the Steel Forge, I would have just side shuffled them into the forest. Still on the zone, still in the woods, and just been like, yeah, whatever, you can shoot for the next, like, whatever turns. Like, 3 to 4 turns. Just to score it.
Yep.
And reduce shots. Like, that's the only way I was going to live through that. Next things would happen. These Avatara fight these guys. Oh, maybe you took me down to, like, 1 wound or something.
I think last turn was the one where I took you down to no, this turn's the one I took you down to
so
1.
Maybe I had more wounds last turn, or I had 2 stands. Like I had because I know for sure I had another stand over here.
There's just multiple turns of miserable rolling, I remember.
Yeah, they don't kill me, and I'm just like hanging out. I think I do a clash back into you, but I don't. You just make all your saves, but that's not the fight. What's real?
Yeah.
Steel Forge, Reform, Stab Avatara. Actually, I don't think they stab Avatar right away. I think these Fireforge move over and no, they didn't shoot because I had to wheel or I had to reform and then march up. So they reform and march up to get into range, and then the Steel Forge combat reform and then stab you, and you stab me, and now we're just in a punt, like just a back alley knife fight.
That's the thing about Avatar is they either feel godlike and just like do way more than you ever expect out of them, or they just kind of like suck. Yeah. And then they're just like, oh, I'll just tickle you with my it's like, oh, we brought the foam weapons today, boys. Turns out we're not killing anything. And it's like, why? What are you doing?
The nerf fight is real.
Yeah.
But we both have 3 stands on that zone, so no one scores. Well, you don't score, and I still contest it, so that's turn 7. Go to turn 8. Here's our turn 8. Fireforge. I believe you shot me, or you stabbed one of my Steel Forge to death here, and then my Fireforge like laid into you.
Oh yeah.
And blew you up.
Annihilated.
And that one Steel Forge like finished you off, and then you killed my one stand of Fire Forge over here, and then just reformed to have 2 stands in the zone. So you actually score this turn.
But it's a moot point, but
I'm already looking at it where I'm like, okay, so you have to get rid of the Steel Forge because he's coming for you, but then you're in range of like the Fire Forge who are just gonna light you up,
continuously light me up, yeah.
And it's gonna be the same thing, but I don't think like you being saving on evasion 2 is not as good as me saving on evasion 4, or sorry, defense 4 with the Steel Forge, because these Steel Forge charge you, do some impact damage, and then just clash and wipe out those marksmen.
Yeah, the unit exploded.
Yeah, it did. And then I score this again, and that's where we called it.
Yeah, I was ready to call it earlier, but you're like, oh, it's still super early, because we were playing like really fast.
Yeah, because I had... So after, I think, turn 5, because all the fights are happening, it was just like, when I was building my deck, it was more like, okay, this fight has to go first, then this one, then this one, then this one, and then it was like, done. Put it down, and I'm like, alright, I'm ready.
Yeah, like, I had to do a little bit of thinking, and like, especially with like a unit I've never played before, I was not able to just know exactly what to do, but I don't know. I think it was still a good game though.
Yeah, this was a really brutal game. I liked it a lot, and it kind of... I'm glad you came on with me to talk about this game, because this was very much one of them where I wanted both sides, like both players, to be on talking about this one, because it was like we had a really good game, and it was only a few choices that were like changed and settled it between the two of us.
Yeah, this felt very similar to a lot of like when I play against Brian, it's almost always kind of like this type of a game where it's like almost everything gets annihilated and one person has like 2 units left over in order to, and it's like, oh, it turns out your 2 units to my 1 unit is enough to win.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. This one is a little more one-sided, but
it was like so I'm gonna go to score, and then we'll do an after game, because there were a couple things like you did that I was like, oh god. So I got 15. So I scored 15 points to your 7. We didn't count cards, either. So where's my phone? I'll just do this really quick. I can do mine for you very quickly if I actually have the whole list of cards. So you got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 plus 7. So was that 23?
Yeah, you would have had, say, 11 plus... Was it 2 points per? It's
2 points per character, 2 points per stand, and then your warlord as well. And he counts as both a character and a warlord, so he's 4 points.
Yeah, so plus an addition to... Yeah, you would have had 24 kill points on top of that.
Oh, okay. So
kill points are pretty... Yeah.
39. There we go.
So it was the zone scoring determines this game, unless you're like tabling your opponent, in which case it's just a cascade of like, let me win harder. You're not going to catch up if you're not scoring the zone.
Yeah, I very much focus on like melee and head to head are the 2 kill point scenarios, and I very much just focus on the objectives and not on.
If you win the zone, you'll win the game.
Yeah. Because the especially on melee, like you can score 2 zones and like get 6 points a turn. Like that's 3 regiments killed a turn, basically. Like it's very rare that you kill 3 regiments a turn, and no one's gonna have that much in their army where you can kill 3 regiments a turn and just sitting on 2 zones. Like the zones matter.
Yeah, like essentially, if you ignore kill points and then you just continuously score the zone, you'll win. Like. I cannot think of a scenario. Maybe if it's like your enemy kills nothing and you like table them, but at that point you should also be scoring zones. So like, how would that happen?
Yeah, are you guys everyone's contesting and you're winning those fights, and he's like, I guess every turn puts something new to contest and you kill it? Like,
yeah, like I guess it breaks like weird stalemates, but I just don't think it's worth concentrating on. Even then, you're still focusing on like the zones. Yeah, I think that's really it. If you're contesting all of the zones, you can get an advantage if you just are killing, like getting ahead and killing. But if your opponent is like pretty good at the game, then it's not going to matter because they shouldn't get too distracted by it, I don't think.
No, but just go for the scenario. So about the game, we kind of touched on a lot of this as we went over turn by turn, but one of the big things that caught me off guard when we played was your incarnate block just shooting up the table like 21 inches right off of turn 3, and I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
And I know we talked about that in our own post game at the store, where I probably could have been less aggressive with my Hellbringer Drakes and Ballistae. But I kind of wanted to like get on scenario and not have to like fight you off scenario and like start that scoring. What kind of also forced your hand to get over there. The one Drake in the middle of the table who wasn't in the forest, that was a complete misplay. Like, I probably should have checked your marksman range, but I got tunnel vision and went for the brutes, who obviously I can't roll shit until you're engaged. And because I needed to, like, I knew I needed to snipe them out, and they were close enough that I had a chance to snipe them out before you popped off. And like that needed to happen. So yeah,
you killed them just in time. Like, I think that the turn that you killed them and like exactly when you killed them, it's like, oh, you stopped that Ferromancer from knocking your defense down on your Drake.
Oh, that would have been
and
bad.
From, again, I buffed the Incarnates so they take less damage, like probably 4 or 5 less damage, just because like the number of attacks that were going into them with Tenacious.
Mm-hmm.
And then the brutes activate and proceed to just, like hammer into those hold Ballistae, which frees up the Incarnates. Like, they're at the bottom of my stack now, but they're pretty defensive. And it's like, like, I don't know. I had I not lost that roll off, I think it would have been pretty nice for me. But sometimes that's how it goes.
Yeah, it was a brutal game. Just us going back and forth playing it.
I think though that's kind of like, at least with my list into Dweghom in particular, that's how it tends to go. Every time I've played Brian, it's been like this. Most of the Dweghom games, well, like games that I've played against you, tend to go this way, or like, that one time I managed to like squeak out a victory. But...
Oh, I've messed up so many. That trifecta game, I messed up so much, and I don't like that list.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. It's just with Dweghom, you like have to set everything up and just like hammer them relentlessly. Otherwise, you do nothing. And then, especially with like the tempered steel shaper, it's just like, oh, cool. I'll just nullify. I'll effectively heal back 3 and nullify 3 wounds. So that's effectively 6 wounds of mitigation. Yeah. And it's just like, cool. I need to get enough stuff into position in order to just hit you repeatedly to the point where it actually does something, because otherwise you'll just rebuild up tokens and then it's just like, cool, it just becomes impossible to kill Dweghom.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking of moving the both casters to Magma. I was kind of thinking about, like, do I keep the Steel Shaper with the healing, but then I'm not getting like the Warlord tempered to like drop out a hindering terrain and then having double pyroclast. I'm only having 1 pyroclast, so it's kind of like, eh. But then there's the consistency of it, of generating tokens, and that's what I need, especially in the Dweghom vs Spires matchup, is the token consistency.
Yeah, I think the best Dweghom list, or like the list that I think is strongest against the type of Spire list that I like to play, is probably the Warden list that Brian has, because those Ardents just keep popping out tickets, and then that Steel Shaper's just like ho ho ho, and he can cast Unmake Armor, by the way, which is real good. Yeah, real good. I'm surprised you did not Unmake Armor on my Incarnates.
Well, because I wasn't because the turn I went into them, you killed my Ballista before I could get the activation off. No, I generated a token. I probably could have.
Yeah, there's at least one turn in there that you could have, and I was like, oh, thank God he did.
Yeah, no, it's probably because
sweet.
I barely use it. Yeah, no, that's bad on me. There, see, that's something I could have done.
Yeah, unmake armor is
scaling,
god
though,
tier.
because you are 6 stands. Yeah, it's a scaling.
I don't know, Brian hit me with it.
Yeah, it's
into my incarnates, I'm pretty sure.
It's a scaling spell. Yeah, it's a scaling. So 7 dice.
Oh, it's when you're in contact with something, though.
Oh, it would have been auto end. Yeah,
you get an auto cast.
God damn it! I should have done that.
Yeah, I know that there's ways that you can get that off, and I'm always like real sad when it happens. And I was like, oh, sweet, my really expensive, heavily armored fist.
Yeah, then you could have been Invasion 2 the entire time. You were like, well, no, it would have helped a little bit on the.
Incarnate Sentinels are Evasion 1.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, I 100% should have unmaked armor. I should have. Did you kill them? No, I'm pretty sure you killed the. No, I think you killed the hold Ballista with the Incarnates before I got to activate.
There's a reason why I was coming for them, man.
Yeah,
I was like,
because we had that turn. You were engaged with me. You had the brutes and the Incarnates engaged with me. I shot with the Drake, killed your brutes. You activated the Incarnates because you no longer had the Ferromancer. You had to clash kill my Ballista who didn't get to go, and then you charged engage my other Drake. Yeah, so no, I didn't get the chance to.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I don't know.
I knew there was reason.
Sometimes YOLO unmake armor though. Like, I don't know. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, you might not get it, but like whatever.
I knew I needed to kill the Ferromancer and the brutes though. Like, that was more important.
Yeah, I could have definitely put the Incarnates in front of them. At that point, I was just kind of like, I'm going to lose quite a bit of tempo. And I was like, I'm going to get quite behind in scoring. And I was like, I have to dislodge that stupid Drake in the woods too. And I was like, I'm not going to have a lot of good tools by the time that I chew through. And the way that you like layered the approach with the Steel Forged and then the Fire Forged behind them, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I learned that from, like, I'm pretty sure I learned that from Brian, where he was like, oh yeah, or maybe Brian and Lorlo, where it was like, if your center's falling apart, throw another Fireforge at it. He'll hold. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it kind of held. Like, the castle was dead, but the Fireforge cleaned the remains of whatever attacked it off. And that cleared off the center so that I could just have the rest of my stuff run at you. Yeah,
it turns out that gooey center still has teeth.
Yeah. Fireforge hanging out. What else? Anything else you can think of?
Not really. I'm probably going to get around to actually making a different list that's more, that like, the Leonine Avatar are more central to, and just kind of like lean into that, because I think they're like
good.
You were saying, they're like kind of defining of a different build in the faction. It's not like they are specifically faction defining, but they like define a new build within the faction that I'm interested to explore.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well,
plus, I played this list a lot, and I'm just kind of tired of it.
Yeah, that's why I had to like step away from 100 Kingdoms after Adepticon. I was like, yeah, I gotta go play Dweg. And then I'm playing like the one Dweg list over and over again. So I'll probably pull a different Dread list for Sunday.
Gotta try that Warden list out. That
I have a couple of them saved. I'll bring one out for Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Skillen, thank you for joining me. I had a great time chatting with you for both sides of this battle report. It was new and fun.
Yeah. That was actually really cool.
Yeah. I'm glad we got to see each other's heads.
Yeah, mine is just filled with bugs, apparently. As is Spires tradition. Exactly.
So, if you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. BonkTable Discord in the description below. And we also have a podcast. And Cassandra, my wonderful co-host, has a Twitter. So, go have a look at those things. Thank you very much. Bye!